There is a quiet, private language we speak only to ourselves. It's a language of gentle negotiation, of rationalization. It's the vocabulary of not yet, and if only, and when the time is right. We use these words like soft pillows to cushion ourselves from the hard edges of our own ambition, from the sharp, demanding voice of our own potential. We call these words our reasons, but if we are truly honest, we must admit their real name. They are excuses, and we must understand something crucial about them. Your excuses are expensive, they are not free. They do not protect you, they cost you. They charge a compound interest on the life you are meant to be living. What is the price tag on an excuse? It is paid in the currency of your own future. Every time you tell yourself you are too tired to begin, you are making a down payment on a life of perpetual fatigue. Every time you postpone a difficult conversation, you are investing in a future of unresolved tension and misunderstood intentions. Every time you defer a creative project until you feel inspired, you are purchasing a tomorrow that is identical to your yesterday, empty of the new thing only you could have created. We often treat our excuses as minor indulgences, harmless little stories we tell ourselves to get through a difficult day. We view them as a free pass, a get out of jail free card we can play when motivation is low or fear is high. We believe they cost us nothing in the moment, offering a comfortable escape from immediate discomfort. This perception is the heart of their deceptive power. An excuse feels like a reprieve, but it is, in fact, a transaction. You are trading a momentary comfort for a piece of your future. The cost is not immediately visible, which makes it all the more dangerous. It operates like a high-interest loan on your potential, where the payments are deferred, but the principal, your time, your energy, your one precious life, is being slowly drained. The expense of an excuse is not a single, dramatic withdrawal. It is a system of compound interest on the life you are meant to be living. In finance, compound interest means you earn interest not only on your original investment, but also on the accumulated interest. The destructive version of this principle applies here. When you excuse yourself from a workout today, the cost is more than one missed session. You are also strengthening the neural pathway that says skipping is acceptable, making it easier to skip tomorrow. You are earning interest in the form of reinforced apathy. When you postpone a difficult project, you are not just delaying a deadline. You are accumulating the interest of increased anxiety, a mounting sense of being behind, and a diminished belief in your own capability to meet challenges. This compounding effect means that the true cost of today's excuse is not fully paid today. It will be paid weeks, months, or even years from now, in a moment of realization. You will look up and find yourself in a life that feels smaller, less vibrant, and less authentically yours than the one you once envisioned. The landscape of that future life will be the direct result of these small, daily interest payments you made in the form of "I'm too tired," "It's too hard," or "I'll do it tomorrow." The dream you deferred has not been patiently waiting for you. It has been slowly suffocating under the weight of this accumulating debt of inaction. This is why the most financially sound investment you can make is not in a stock or a bond, but in your own disciplined action. Every time you choose to act in defiance of an excuse, you are making a deposit. You are investing in your own self-trust, in your resilience, and in the tangible reality of your goals. This investment also compounds. The satisfaction of completing a difficult task generates motivation for the next one. The confidence gained from facing a fear makes the next challenge seem less daunting. The life you want is built through this positive compounding. One courageous excuse, defying action at a time. The expense of excuses is a debt that enslaves you to your own fears. The investment of action is what purchases your freedom. We often console ourselves with the belief that our potential is a permanent possession, an internal resource that will patiently wait for us to finally decide to use it. We treat our dreams like books on a shelf that we can pull down and read at our leisure whenever we have a free moment. This is a comforting illusion, but it is a dangerous one. Potential is not a static asset to be stored. It is a dynamic force that must be acted upon. And every time we offer an excuse for our inaction, we are not merely delaying the inevitable. We are making a deliberate, if unconscious, down payment on a life of perpetual stagnation. The language of this transaction is subtle. "I'm too busy right now" is not just a statement about your current schedule. It is a commitment to a future where you will always be too busy for what truly matters to you. You are, in that moment, investing in an identity of someone who is perpetually overwhelmed, telling yourself that your core aspirations will always be subordinate to the frantic demands of the day. You are purchasing a tomorrow where your passions remain neatly filed away under someday. Similarly, the excuse of "I'm not ready yet" is not a humble assessment of your skills. It is a down payment on a future of endless preparation without ever entering the arena. You are investing in a life of rehearsals without a performance, of studying the map without ever taking a journey. With each repetition, you are reinforcing the story that you are fundamentally unqualified for the very life you claim to want, building a more expensive and imposing barrier between yourself and your goals. This process is so insidious because the payments are small and the consequences are deferred. You don't feel the weight of the life you are purchasing with your excuses in the moment you make them. The fatigue from skipping a workout feels like a minor relief, not a step toward a less healthy future. The anxiety you avoid by postponing a difficult conversation feels like a victory, not an investment in a more complicated and unresolved relationship down the line. But the bill always comes due. The price is paid in the quiet moments of realization. The pang of envy when you see someone else living the life you imagined for yourself. The hollow feeling of looking back on a year and seeing no significant growth. The slow, dawning awareness that you have become a spectator in your own story. The future you are financing with your excuses is one of regret, of what if, and of a profound sense of personal dissonance where the person you are feels like a pale imitation of the person you know in your heart you were meant to become. You are not just wasting time, you are actively constructing a limited reality, one excuse at a time, and the ultimate cost is the foreclosure on your most authentic and vibrant self. We build our lives on a foundation of promises. We make them to others, and we receive them in return, but the most fundamental promises, the ones that truly shape the architecture of our character, are the ones we make to ourselves. I will start tomorrow. I will finally have that conversation. I will prioritize my health. These are the quiet covenants of the soul, and when we break them, we don't just fail a task. We commit a subtle but profound act of self-betrayal. An excuse is the language of this betrayal. It is the narrative we craft to justify breaking our word to the one person who should be able to count on us unconditionally, our future self. Each time we invoke an excuse, we are not just postponing an action, we are sending a clear message to our own psyche. My word is not binding, my commitments are negotiable, my own priorities are not important enough to honor. This is not a minor infraction. It is an erosion of self-trust that occurs at the deepest level of our identity. This erosion is cumulative. A single broken promise to oneself might be easily dismissed, but the pattern is what proves devastating. Over time, a cascade of excuses creates a powerful internal narrative of unreliability. You begin to see yourself not as the hero of your own story, capable of decisive action, but as a passive character, perpetually at the mercy of circumstances. When you consistently tell yourself you will do something and then don't, you train your brain to stop taking your own intentions seriously. The voice inside that says it's time to work, or you should speak up, grows quieter and less urgent because it has learned that its prompts will likely be overruled by a more comfortable alternative. The consequence is a crippling lack of agency. When a real opportunity or a true crisis arises, you find yourself hesitating not because of the external challenge, but because of an internal void. You don't trust your own resolve. You don't believe in your own follow-through. The excuse has done its work. It has severed the connection between your intention and your action. You are left with wonderful ideas and noble goals, but with a deeply ingrained belief that you lack the capacity to see them through. This is the ultimate cost of the excuse. It doesn't just rob you of a single achievement, it robs you of your belief in yourself as an achiever. It replaces self-confidence with a quiet, persistent sense of fraudulence. You become an imposter in your own life, going through the motions but knowing, deep down, that your word to yourself has no power. Rebuilding from this requires more than just discipline. It requires a conscious, deliberate campaign to prove your own trustworthiness to yourself, one kept promise, no matter how small, at a time. We often tell ourselves that our excuses are a form of self-preservation. We believe that by saying, "I'm not ready," or "it's not the right time," we are protecting ourselves from failure, from judgment, from the sting of not being good enough. We hold up our excuses as a shield, a defensive barrier between our vulnerable, aspiring self and the harsh, critical world. In the short term, this feels like a smart strategy. The shield appears to work. We avoid the immediate discomfort of trying, and we remain safe in the known territory of our current limitations. But this is a profound misunderstanding of the shield's true nature. What we perceive as protection is, in reality, a prison. The excuse does not stand between you and the world. It stands between you and your own potential. It does not block external criticism. It silences your own inner voice. The shield is not there to protect you from failure. It is there to protect you from the terrifying, transformative possibility of success. Because success would demand change, it would demand growth, and it would irrevocably shatter the comfortable, familiar identity you have constructed, an identity that relies on the very excuses you now wield. This is the great illusion of control that excuses offer. By giving us a reason for our inaction, they allow us to maintain the fantasy that we are still in charge. We tell ourselves, "I could do it if I really wanted to," but this preserves our ego. It allows us to blame external circumstances, a lack of time, money, or opportunity, rather than confront the internal resistance that is the true obstacle. The excuse gives us a scapegoat, so we never have to look in the mirror and admit that the only thing truly holding us back is our own fear. In this way, the excuse ceases to be a tool we use and becomes the force that controls us. Our decisions are no longer guided by our values and aspirations, but by our desire to avoid the situations that would require us to drop our shield. We choose the easier path, the less confrontational option, the safer bet, not because it aligns with our purpose, but because it allows us to keep our protective narrative intact. We become a slave to the very story we invented for our own comfort. The weight of the shield becomes our normal. We forget what it feels like to move through life without its burden. We forget the feeling of the sun on our skin because we are so accustomed to the shade it casts. We think we are carrying it, but in truth it is shaping us, curving our posture, limiting our movement, and determining the narrow confines of the world we allow ourselves to inhabit. The ultimate deception is that we believe we are wielding a shield for our own protection, when in reality we have been enclosed by it, its weight slowly pressing us into a smaller and smaller version of the life we were meant to live, of course. Here is an expansion on the fifth keynote. We often treat our goals as distant destinations that require a specific set of conditions to be met before we can begin the journey. We wait for a surge of motivation, a clear stretch of free time, or a feeling of total confidence. We operate under the assumption that readiness is a prerequisite for starting. We believe we must first feel like a writer before we can write, or feel like an athlete before we can train. This belief is the final, and perhaps most powerful, excuse in our arsenal. It sounds so reasonable, so prudent, but it is a myth that has halted more potential than any overt failure ever could. The truth about readiness is that it is not a starting line. It is a quality that emerges from the act of starting. It is a consequence of engagement, not a precondition for it. You do not wait to feel strong before you lift the weight. You lift the weight, and in doing so, you discover and build the strength that was waiting to be called upon. Confidence is not the fuel for action. It is the product of action. You cannot think your way into courage. You must act your way into it. This is why the most powerful and liberating decision you can make is to act before you feel ready. This is not about reckless impulsivity. It is about a fundamental shift in strategy. Instead of waiting for the perfect internal state to magically appear, you focus on the smallest, most manageable physical action you can take right now. The goal is not to write a novel today, it is to write one sentence. The goal is not to solve the entire problem, it is to research the first step. The goal is not to have the entire difficult conversation, it is to schedule a time for it. This shift is transformative because it bypasses the resistance of the mind. The mind, tasked with the overwhelming project of writing a novel, will immediately generate excuses about time, talent, and topic. But the mind, tasked with the simple, concrete action of writing one sentence, finds little to resist. The barrier to entry is so low that you can step over it before your fears have even mobilized. And in that simple act of starting, a profound alchemy occurs. The single sentence leads to a second. The scheduled conversation forces you to organize your thoughts. The first small step creates momentum, and that momentum generates clarity, competence, and eventually the very feeling of readiness you were waiting for. It reveals itself not as a feeling you must have, but as a state you grow into through the process of doing. Therefore, the pursuit of readiness is a fool's errand. It is a horizon that perpetually recedes. The only way to become ready is to begin. The courage you seek is found not in the absence of fear, but in the decision to move forward while carrying that fear with you. The preparation you think you need will be provided by the journey itself, in the form of lessons learned, skills built, and resilience forged in the very act of engaging with the challenge. Stop waiting for the starting pistol. The race has already begun, and the first step is the one that creates the runner.